What if the most powerful healing foods on the planet weren't invented by modern science, but were eaten thousands of years ago by the healthiest people who ever lived? Most people have no idea that while we're counting calories and chasing the latest diet trend, the Bible was already prescribing specific foods that science is now proving can fight disease, reduce inflammation, and transform your health at the cellular level. We have spent decades looking for the next breakthrough in a laboratory, yet we may have been walking past the answers in our own gardens for generations. These aren't just spiritual symbols, they are nutritional powerhouses with real clinical research behind them. Today, I'm going to show you the foods that will completely change the way you eat and heal forever. We are moving beyond the surface of the soil to uncover a forgotten pharmacy, a collection of ancient survival foods that kept desert travelers, soldiers, and prophets thriving for centuries. The stakes couldn't be higher. We live in a world where modern commodity crops have been bred for yield and shelf stability, often at the cost of the very micronutrients our bodies crave. But by returning to these omega crops, we're tapping into a biological covenant of health. Stick around, because one specific plant on this list was so rare and prized in biblical times that kings literally traded it like currency. While it was once used in sacred purification rituals, modern researchers have recently discovered it contains some of the most powerful natural antiseptics known to man. And we'll also look at a fruit that was called the gift of God in ancient scripture. While it once adorned the pillars of Solomon's temple as a symbol of life, modern oncologists are now stunned by its ability to impact cancer cells and reduce chronic inflammation markers in the blood. If you want ancient wisdom backed by modern science delivered straight to you every week, hit that subscribe button right now, because you don't want to miss what's coming. All right, let's get into it. Here is the path beyond the garden, the biblical superfoods that are absolutely life-changing. To understand the healing power of the ancient world, we have to start at the beginning. Not just because olive oil is a staple, but because in the biblical landscape, it was the beginning. It was food, fuel, medicine, and a sacred substance all at once, referenced over 140 times in Scripture. When the Good Samaritan dressed a stranger's wounds with oil and wine, it wasn't a random act of kindness, it was a precise medical application. Modern science has finally caught up to this liquid gold. Hundreds of clinical trials have now linked the Mediterranean diet, with olive oil as its cornerstone, to reduced rates of heart disease, cognitive decline, and all-cause mortality. The secret lies in a compound called oleocanthal. This polyphenol works almost identically to ibuprofen, systematically shutting down the pathways of inflammation within the body. But there is a critical gardener's catch. Ancient olive oil wasn't the refined, heat-processed product found on most supermarket shelves today. To get these benefits, it must be a living food, cold-pressed, unfiltered, and freshly harvested, so the antioxidants and vitamin E remain intact for the body to use immediately. From the groves, we move to the hives to uncover heaven's antimicrobial, raw honey. The Bible doesn't just treat honey as a poetic metaphor for sweetness, it presents it as a functional food that provides strength and clarity. We now know that raw honey is one of the most powerful natural antimicrobials ever studied. It is so effective that clinical trials confirm it can kill antibiotic-resistant bacteria like MRSA. It achieves this by creating hydrogen peroxide on contact with tissue and maintaining a low pH that literally suffocates pathogens. However, there is a critical warning for the modern kitchen. The word raw is everything. The moment you heat honey past roughly 40 degrees Celsius, you begin an irreversible process of destroying the delicate enzymes and medicinal compounds that give it life. The honey our ancestors ate, harvested directly from the hive, unheated and unfiltered, is functionally a different substance than the clear, shelf-stable syrup in most grocery stores. This is the gift that remained sweet and healing for 3,000 years in Egyptian tombs, proving that when we eat what is living, we support the life within us.
When we look at the fruits of the ancient world, we find a detail that most modern readers miss. They weren't just snacks, they were the primary supplements of a world without multivitamins. We begin this shelf of the pharmacy with the Isaiah prescription. When King Hezekiah was dying from a deadly infection, a severe skin ulcer, the prophet Isaiah didn't just offer a prayer, he ordered a poultice of figs pressed onto the wound. This wasn't a symbolic gesture. Modern science has finally caught up to Isaiah's orders, discovering that figs contain phycin, a powerful proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead tissue and actively promotes wound healing. But the healing power of the fig goes deeper than the skin. These fruits are extraordinarily rich in soluble fiber, specifically pectin, which feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. In a time when people relied on the land to sustain their vitality, the fig provided a concentration of magnesium, potassium, and calcium that made it one of the most mineral-dense fruits you could grow. Whether eaten fresh for an immediate energy boost or dried for year-round nutrition, the fig remains a cornerstone of ancient medicinal wisdom. Next, we encounter the antioxidant king, the pomegranate. This fruit was so revered that 200 of them were carved on the pillars of Solomon's temple. This wasn't mere decoration, it was a testament to what this fruit meant for human life. Today, antioxidant science is absolutely fascinated by the pomegranate because it contains a rare compound found almost nowhere else in nature called punicalagins. When you consume pomegranate, these compounds break down into urolithins in the gut, molecules that have shown remarkable anti-inflammatory and even potential anti-cancer effects in research. Clinical trials have proven that pomegranate juice can reduce blood pressure, lower LDL oxidation, and improve overall arterial health. While the seeds are a nutritional treasure, the rind, which most people throw away, is actually where the medicine is most concentrated, used by traditional healers for centuries to treat inflammatory gut conditions. Extracting these jewel-like seeds takes work, but as the ancients knew, the most valuable things in the garden always reward the effort. In the hierarchy of the ancient world, grains were the bedrock of civilization, but not all grains were created equal. We begin with barley, the humble grain of the poor. It wasn't glamorous, it was the food of soldiers on campaign and laborers performing the back-breaking work of building empires. When Jesus multiplied the loaves to feed the 5,000, he wasn't using refined white flour, he used barley bread. And it turns out those ordinary people were fueling themselves with one of the most gut-friendly substances ever studied. Barley contains the highest concentration of beta-glucan of any grain, a specific type of soluble fiber that is so effective at lowering cholesterol and stabilizing blood sugar that modern health authorities allow formal claims on its benefits. This fiber forms a protective gel in the gut that slows down glucose absorption, providing the kind of sustained, slow-burning energy that a prophet or a soldier needed to endure the wilderness. But as we move to wheat, I have to give you a gardener's warning, because the wheat of the Bible is not the wheat in your pantry today. Modern commodity wheat is a mid-20th century invention, bred for massive yields and high-strength gluten. In that process, we created a genetic stranger to the human body.
Ancient varieties like einkorn are structurally different. While modern dwarf wheat has been manipulated into 42 chromosomes, ancient einkorn remains in its original state with only 14. This genetic simplicity matters for your health. Because it hasn't been bred for maximum gluten development, its protein structure is more fragile and much easier for the human digestive system to break down. Many people who struggle with modern wheat find they can tolerate these ancient grains without the inflammatory response. The grain of the Bible wasn't what was making people sick. What's making people sick is what we turned it into. When you return to the dense, dark, slow-fermented loaves of the ancient world, you aren't just eating bread, you are eating a nutrient-dense fuel that provides more protein, more beta-carotene, and more antioxidants per serving than anything produced by modern industrial farming. These were the grains that built giants, and they remain the gold standard for anyone looking to heal from the inside out.
In the ancient world, medicine wasn't just found in large harvests, it was hidden in the smallest seeds of the herb garden. We see the true value of these plants in the words of Jesus himself, who noted that the Pharisees were so meticulous they tithed even their mint, dill, and cumin. You don't tithe something unless it has immense worth, and for 4,000 years, cumin was a currency of health. Modern science has finally pulled back the curtain on why this spice was treated like gold. Cumin contains a compound called cuminaldehyde, which has demonstrated powerful antimicrobial effects against a wide range of bacteria and fungi. But its real magic happens in the digestive tract. Cumin actually stimulates the production of bile and increases the activity of digestive enzymes. This doesn't just reduce bloating, it fundamentally improves how your body absorbs nutrients from every other food you eat. In a world of daily bread, cumin was the key to making that bread work for the body. Then we have the mystery of the wilderness. When the miraculous manna fell from heaven, the scriptures described it as being like coriander seed. Whether as a botanical marker or a spiritual metaphor, coriander, the seed of the cilantro plant, holds a miraculous secret of its own. While the ancient world used it to calm anxious nerves and soothe inflammatory pain, modern researchers are investigating a much more profound cleansing property. Emerging research suggests that cilantro and coriander may act as a natural heavy metal cleanser. Preliminary studies indicate these plants can help mobilize and eliminate mercury and other toxic metals from body tissues. In our modern world, where we're constantly bombarded by environmental toxins, this ancient manna seed provides a biological detox that the ancients may have understood purely by instinct. These spices were never meant to just be flavoring. They were functional tools designed to keep the human machine clean, efficient, and resilient. By adding them to our modern kitchens, we aren't just seasoning our food, we are tithing to our own health. In the quietest corners of the landscape, where the soil is thin and the sun is harsh, grow the true survivors of the ancient world. We begin with a food that carries a strange emotional weight in Scripture: garlic. When the Israelites were wandering in the desert, they didn't weep for gold or fine linen, they wept for garlic. This mourning of garlic makes perfect scientific sense when you understand that they weren't just losing a flavor, they were losing their primary defense system. Modern science has confirmed that garlic is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial powerhouse. The secret is allicin, a volatile compound created only when the clove is crushed or chopped. Clinical trials show that this single compound is active against bacteria, viruses, and even parasites, making it the antibiotic of the ancient world. By losing garlic, the desert travelers were losing their protection against the very infections that thrive in a wilderness environment. But there is another survivor hidden in the Judean wilderness: St. John's bread, or the locust bean. For centuries, people debated what John the Baptist actually ate, but scholars now point to the carob tree, whose sweet bean-like pods have sustained travelers for millennia. Carob is the ultimate survival food, not because it is calorie-dense, but because it's a master regulator of the human gut. Packed with up to 40% dietary fiber, carob contains specialized compounds called condensed tannins. These tannins act as a natural gut regulator, capable of binding to toxins and slowing digestion to provide the sustained, slow-burning energy needed for survival. Before modern pharmaceuticals, carob was used in hospitals to treat severe digestive distress because of its incredible antimicrobial and antidiarrheal effects. Combined with wild honey, these locust beans provided a complete survival diet. John the Baptist wasn't merely surviving on the fringes of society. With these two superfoods, he was likely thriving with more physical resilience than the civilization he left behind. It is a reminder that the foods we often dismiss as wilderness plants are often the ones that hold the most concentrated power to heal. What we have uncovered today is a profound realization. The ancient observers who wrote these texts weren't primitive, they were master observers of the natural world. They didn't need a microscope to know what healed them. They built their entire culture, their rituals, and their theology around the plants that sustained their lives. Today, modern science, with its double-blind studies and biochemical analysis, is simply arriving at the same conclusions that were documented 3 millennia ago. Whether it's olive oil reducing inflammation, honey killing bacteria, or garlic fighting infection, the mechanism was never the point, the healing was. But before you head to the store, I have to give you one final critical warning. Information without action is just entertainment. The path forward requires a shift in how you source your food, because quality matters enormously. There is a massive functional gap between a medically active jar of raw honey and the bear-shaped bottle of processed syrup at the grocery store. One is a living medicine, the other is a hollow imitation that has been heated and stripped of the very enzymes that make it a superfood. The same applies to the oils you pour and the grains you bake. Most commercial olive oils are cut with cheap seed oils, and modern dwarf wheat is a genetic stranger to the ancient einkorn that fueled profits. If you want to experience the cellular transformation we've discussed, you must seek out the heirloom varieties, the real versions that haven't been watered down by industrial agriculture. This is why I've done the research for you. In the description below, I've linked the specific heirloom seed companies and trusted sources I use to find these high-quality biblical foods. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 biblical superfoods surprised you the most? Are you going to start with the liquid gold of olive oil, or are you ready to try the wilderness secret of carob? I read every single comment, and I can't wait to see which ancient plant you're bringing back into your garden. If you want more garden wisdom backed by modern science delivered to you every week, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a discovery. We're just getting started on this journey back to the roots of health. See you in the next one.